Hey, everybody. How's it going? It is time to answer your questions. So, I've been doing this now for a while. And obviously, you guys have been sending in tons of questions, responding to the various videos that I've been putting up. And what I try to do is every so often, I'm going to answer your most frequent questions. Um, this is going to be an attempt for me to handle really three or four of the biggest questions that I've been getting since I started this new channel. Um, it's interesting to me. The one thing I've really found out, because doing YouTube is new to me, and I find out that a lot of times, the questions I get from people are answered in the video, but oftentimes they've only seen a part of the video. And it's been really interesting to learn that, when you watch people's watch rates and stuff like that. And because I get these comments sometimes and I'm like, what? It's answered in the video. And then you realize, oh, guess what? This guy did not watch the whole video. But anyways, here is but this question I get this version of the question all the time, you know. And I think it's, probably one of the biggest misconceptions people have, and one of the biggest points you're missing, with this channel. I clearly define the threshold that you'd ever need before you'd ever use the tool of violence to protect yourself. And again, just for those of you that this is new, basically that threshold is you are devoid of choice. You are facing imminent grievous bodily harm. That means if you had an exit, you would have taken it. If you could have talked your way out of it, you would have. You are now, in a situation where the only thing that's going to get you out of it is using the tool of violence. And so, especially for videos like the one I posted about the best knockout that nobody knows about, which is essentially just striking to the side of the neck. I kept getting this question all the time. Hey, will that strike kill him? I've made it very clear in the past that anytime you put your hands on somebody, you cross into that physical plane, you have no idea how it's going to end up. I've given multiple examples of that. I've showed you situations where there's the epic bar brawl where guys are just beating the hell out of each other out in the street. All things around them, anybody could have hit themselves on the head or anything like that, and yet they survive it. And then I'll show a similar situation in a bar, and one punch is rendered. That punch knocks the guy to the ground. He bounces his head off the concrete. He's dead. Okay? So any version of this question, will this strike kill him? Yes, there's a potentiality that no matter what you do, there's no guarantees and there's no safety. Now, there's levels of trauma, all things being equal. But the concern that I have, like a lot of people, oh, don't do that. You might kill him. What that's telling me is you want to use violence in a situation where it's not warranted. What does that mean? You choose to respond. It's an ego thing. I get this question all the time. Hey, Tim, I want to put this guy in his place, but I don't want to kill him, type thing. And you're missing the whole point of this channel. I'm trying to debunk all of the BS that's out there. You don't get a free pass. If you put your hands on somebody, there's a good chance you could do grievous bodily harm, even if you don't want to. So again, think about that when you're thinking about using the tool of violence. Just realize anything you do to somebody could potentially end up with them or you receiving grievous bodily harm. So it's just a fact of life. So to me, it's just, what's more important is not will the strike potentially kill him. You do need to know what the trauma is. And I do explain what the trauma is on things like that. But more importantly, you need to understand the threshold for when you'd ever use violence to protect yourself. And I think a lot of people out there are missing that. Okay, so that's that question. All right, this question. This is another one that tells me that a lot of people, again, are missing, how I train, and how I want you to think about using the tool of violence. Oftentimes, they'll see something, they'll see one of the videos that I post, and they'll see somebody doing violence to somebody else. And then I get this question, hey, how can I stop somebody from doing that to me? Now, the simple, quick answer I could give everybody, which is, well, do it to them first. And what do I mean by that? It's get your injury. That's the most important thing. What is going to make you safe is shutting down the other guy's brain. How are you going to do that most effectively? You're going to injure him. You're going to injure him with a level of trauma that is going to cause a spinal reflex reaction where the body involuntarily is moving itself away from the stimulus. Okay. And during that time, the brain is disengaged, meaning the brain does not get informed until well after the strike has occurred as to what has happened. Okay. And I've explained that multiple times when you put up. But what's interesting about this is people are viewing things the wrong way when you're asking this question. This question tells me that you are concerned with things being done to you. Now, I understand why you might think that, and I understand why you might think that's a concern. Nobody wants to have violence done to them. But again, if you are going to be focused on trying to figure out what the other guy's doing and then trying to counter him, that is going to put you far behind in the chain of events. You want to cause the effect. You don't want to be reacting to the cause. Okay, meaning what is that? If somebody's grabbed me around the neck, I can't undo that. It's already been done. My focus has to be on them. What's available to me right away? I have to have an outward focus to find something on them to injure them. Because once I injure them, then they're busy responding to the trauma. Okay, I understand a lot of people think countering is the way to go. It just statistically, especially on the street, is just the loser way to go. The way that you can probably end up dead. You're going to block your way to death, basically. It's a concept that just really shows me that you didn't listen to a lot of what I've put out and the parameters I put out. I know they're uncomfortable, but they're absolutely essential to understand. You cannot block your way to safety. Okay, you just can't. Because until you injure the other person and have control of them, they are an open weapon system. And I've shown that multiple times in a lot of the different videos, but it's a key point. A way to get over this is that challenge that I put out to everybody. For the next 30 days, when you view an act of violence, only view it from the successful use of the tool, meaning whoever is successful using violence, learn from that. Don't look at the unsuccessful side, the person having the violence done to them, and try to reverse engineer your way out of it. That is a losing proposition. I've shown you, I've talked to you in the past about, going into the prison systems, some of the studies that were done where they had people looking at this and they would show prisoners, alpha predators, they'd show them, hey, what do you think of this act of violence, that act of violence? What was interesting is none of them ever saw themselves on the receiving side of things. They never looked at the problem from that side. What they did was they saw the successful use of the tool. They saw them doing successful use of the tool. And then the real alphas would then improve upon it. They'd say, well, yeah, this guy did it this way, but I would have done it this way because that would be even better at it. And it's an uncomfortable exercise that after 30 days, you will train your brain to only identify with the successful use of the tool of violence. And that's critically important to your reaction time and how you look at the tool. So again, try to avoid this one. Okay, now here's another one where there's a lot of misunderstanding. I get this, gee, Tim, you're always talking about accuracy and correctness, and you advocate slow training. Everybody knows violence happens at full speed. It's chaotic. If you don't train at full speed, it's all BS. Well, how come the more lethal the training, firearms, explosives, how come that's all done initially slow and deliberate, emphasizing accuracy and correctness? How come the most lethal stuff is always done on crawl, walk, run? Why wouldn't you use that methodology to zero in your weapon system? This is your weapon system, whatever it is, whatever you have, that's what you have. And your goal is you want to get really good at putting 1 square inch of you on a vulnerable square inch of them. And you can't do that at full speed right away. The methodologies of the training, I've talked about the talent code. I've talked about everybody training, the idea of deep practice, all the methodologies that are out there right now. They're huge. This practice. We've been doing this for 30 years, but in the last 15 years, there's really been a lot of study on this, on how people get better. And by far, accuracy and correctness through slow, deliberate training is the foundation that lays everything else for fast execution. That does not mean that you only train slow. What it does mean is you got to lay that foundation down first. And I think that's where all the confusion is. Majority of the time people view some of my training, it's usually, every time they criticize, it's usually day one of a seminar with a brand new client who I am showing something and they're methodically going through it for the first time. And somehow people are saying, well, that's how he always trains. You know, that would be like me going to a BJJ school and watching the first couple of lessons that they train a new white belt in. I've watched that. It's methodical, it's slow, it's boring, it's certainly not at full speed. Why? Because they're learning. Okay, you got to lay that foundation down. You know, before they could execute that move at full speed, they have to understand the intricacies of it. So what I don't understand is why people, you know, denigrate slow training when it's absolutely valid. And there's so much data. I have a whole white paper on it that I might make available to you guys in the near future on this that we had done, you know. And again, if you want to go into the most vulnerable parts of the human body with another human, which is the most effective way to train this stuff, guess what? You're not going to be able to go full speed into somebody's neck, into somebody's eye. You're going to have to go at a moderated pace, and they're going to have to model injury. All right, that's just the way it is. And the results speak for themselves. Tons of the top athletes in the world are using this for whatever discipline they're in, including combat sports. So it's a very valid methodology. It is certainly not the only methodology, but it's what you do to regulate if you're accurate and correct. And what's really funny is in the 20 plus years I've been doing this, I've never had anybody come back to me that has used the information to save their life and said, you know what, I got to train faster. If anything, they'll come back and they'll say, you know what, man, I'm going way too fast on the mats. I'm getting way too comfortable with my training partner. I've got to slow things down. Why? Because the first two things I did in that act of violence that I just survived, I wasn't getting what I wanted because I'm training too fast. So again, accuracy and correctness first is the most important thing to lay down. You need to earn speed. Earn it. So, all right. That's the other big one I've been getting. And, oh yeah, okay. So I say the other big question I've been getting from a lot of you, and I really appreciate this, is live training. Well, we all know how crazy this year has been. It looks like the second quarter of this year, second to third quarter, I'll be able to have a pretty big announcement. We are locking in on a couple of training centers right now. There's going to be a big training center that we're going to have here in Las Vegas that I'll be able to announce pretty soon. It's going to be far beyond just what I do. I'm also bringing in a lot of other subject matter experts, and I'm really excited about it. But live training will definitely be back, and you will definitely, since you're a subscriber to the channel here, you're definitely going to be some of the first people to get this information. It's really important, if you haven't gone to surviveviolence.com and signed up for that free masterclass that I have, that way it will ensure you will get first dibs on any new live training that comes out, because we'll have your email address, and that's how we're initially going to announce it. We'll announce it to all of our subscribers that way. So please make sure you take time to go do that. All right, that's all I'm going to cover today. There's many more questions that you've been asking. Please continue to send those out. And more importantly, please subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about the channel. Get your notifications. Make your comments. Your comments are really gearing how I'm creating content for this channel, and I'm really, really enjoying it. But all the best. Have a great week.